All right, here we go. Meow meow. Look at this. Boom. Mm. 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 That will get rid of steep slope. That's how you get the steep slope. See, you just get rid of people. All right. I think someone was talking about this recently where within tribes and cults, there are, I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? That there would be things that people do to weird out outsiders to make them leave. You know? I suppose that would be a true thing that would happen. So, all right, I have a lot of stuff to get through. I have a lot of clips. I have some preparation. Look, I have notes with water spilled on it. I don't know that I can. I was gonna do some Joe Rogan clips because I think there's a section he has on this guy Joe. I don't know how to say his name. Lisle, number 2419, where they talk about cognitive dissonance, and I think it's good. A lot of what I want to talk about though today. Let's try to lay out the mosaic vision. You know, that's one of my terms because it's a. I think all vision works this way. I listened to PVK spoke with Glenn Sunshine, one of the Theology Pugcast guys, and it was a great conversation. You know, we got to hear his history, and that was interesting. You know, it was a randos of a sort because those guys have been corner adjacent to some degree. Like I would say so Annie Crawford, who's also kind of corner adjacent, she's involved. Great randos, by the way. Great. I think see you later, Bab. Bye. She yeah, it was a really, really good randos. Very personal, very wonderful. That's kind of the heart of the TLC. But then so she was on the Theology podcast, and then they've been, I don't know. There's been some overlap between the TLC and them. And then Glenn Sunshine was on, PVK had him on, but it's members only, I think, at this point. And he did his whole randos. And at the end, he was just like, I'm not sure I understand. Let's see. I timestamped it. I left. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I left 9 comments on the Glenn Sunshine conversation. Nice. Good work. See, Jeff knows how to do this. Jeff knows me. Jeff has met my son. Jeff knows his name. But Jeff realizes this is the internet. This is YouTube. This could theoretically go out to all the peoples of the world. And my friends realize you don't talk about certain private things on a public internet. You know, sorry, buddy. Meow, meow. I'll give you another one. I'll keep them coming. So yeah, Glenn Sunshine was on there and he said a number of things. Like he said, one of the comments, so I was counting up my comments. I left 9. He said 131.5. Here, I'll share the screen because I have a lot of things to share. Let's get here. Glenn Sunshine, share. Nope, what just happened? Good grief. 131.55. I'll be honest with you. I'm still trying to figure out this whole TLC thing. Yeah, he is. He's just like, what is this? What is this deal? We'll go back to that. Mosaic vision. All right. Meow, bro. Also, I think I'm not sure. I haven't even confirmed this, but I think this is Jason. So what Jason did, Jason sends memes all the time to different group chats, Jason Almond Tree, and he sent a picture of this Christmas sweater. It was like this Christmas, like it was the cat, and it had the meow thing with the cigarette, which I thought was awesome. What up, boy? Lucas is here. I don't know. Well, Lucas, was it in our chat? So Jason and Lucas and I have a all tanks chat, and he sent in one of the chats. He sent a picture of this sweater, and I was like, "That is awesome. I should have that." And then yesterday in the mail, and I've been wearing it ever since it arrived, comes an Amazon package, and I pull out this shirt, which is kind of fun. So that's, yeah, if that will be like my Patreon, my upper tiers of my channel when it becomes massive. Because I don't want to make money on it, but then my friends can just send me things in the mail. When you get to know me well enough to know my address, just send me things in the mail, little treats. Maybe, show the vegetable. Oh, I can't. Yeah, I will show it. Okay, fine. And then, yeah, this is the group chat. So I sent a picture last night where I was wearing these red wool tights that I have, which are fantastic. I have wool leggings that I wear all the time, and I got them. They're red. See? This is last night. So I was wearing that. And then Lucas sent this because he thinks that I look like those aren't collard greens. Those are, what do they call those? It's not kale. They're anyhow, yeah, that's a good picture. Chest lettuce. Swiss char. Good job. Okay. Let's actually get to it. We're still in the section where here it is. A lot of what came up in the Glenn Sunshine conversation. We're going to get into a little bit of the Mosaic vision. We're going to get into some thinky talky. I'm going to play some clips. We're going to talk about some ideas. But this part of the stream is illustrating the difference between the spirit of TLC and Christian YouTube. This is not tolerable in Christian YouTube. No one who is participating in the spirit of Christian YouTube in the information economy, and I just say it's the information economy. It's people who think that knowledge is primarily rooted in ideas and in abstract concepts, which is actually anti-incarnational, because if the incarnation is true, then it applies to your knowledge. And so knowledge that isn't lived, because again, Rilke said the point is to live everything. If you say go and be well fed and you do nothing to care for the poor, you don't believe. You don't actually love people. Love involves actually giving of yourself in a way that isn't just self-identifying with abstract ideas. That's called ideology. Yeah, the interesting thing is I'm not really a cat person. I don't have any pets because I'm allergic to them. I can appreciate pets, cats and dogs, but I have a cat shirt. We got Nathan here. Yeah. So TLC isn't about information, but so no one watching this, they would either be intrigued with silliness, perhaps the cat shirt, some of the stories. Who knows why people would be watching this, but it's kind of like Jordan Peterson. They came for the politics, they stayed for the religion. Or with TLC, you maybe come for some of the ideas, but you're going to stay for the people, for the persons, for the friend making, anyhow, the Glenn Sunshine PBK conversation is really great. But some of the ideas that I want to get at in this Mosaic vision are the information economy versus the person economy, and imagination versus information, and what is knowledge and what is real thinking. And all right, let's get into it. Where do we want to start? So I will start. I don't know. I don't want to play. PVK probably won't care. And we need, listen, we need the oppositional processing. We even need our trolls. We need our people we need our T-Grogs. We need our Claire Cause and official secular Coranism. We need our MJs. We need our Nathans. We need the people who just like, we all have that. We all have the horse that we like to be, that dead horse and that drum. But the thing is, and this is one of the books that came up in my book club last night, Dale Carnegie, number 2. Chapter 2, first paragraph, he says over and over and over, is that there's no point, essentially, there's no point in saying anything if people don't want to listen to you. I have a live stream in the back catalog that is like, is it loving to say something to someone who doesn't want to hear it? But here's the thing. This is the great thing about YouTube and the internet is it's all pretty voluntary. Unless someone has you strapped down in like a Clockwork Orange chair with your eyes open and they're just like dropping water into your eyes so that you're forced to watch this live stream, just click away. Click away. If I would actually encourage you, if this is not edifying to you, which doesn't mean it's not necessarily challenging, because we need our oppositional processing. And if you think it's not good, if it doesn't contribute to human flourishing, because this is the thing, I'm not an objectivist. I'm not going to say this is objectively good. I'm a personalist. So like, if this is not salient, and if this content and this information is not meaningful for you, then click away. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Maybe it will be better for you at a different time. All right, I'm going to play a few things and not look at comments, not get distracted by comments. Let's go back to the Glenn Sunshine thing. Let's check our... let's go to there's one particular place, oops, what happened? One comment. This section, this is where
come from the text per se.
Okay. Sorry, I really messed this up. Let's make it bigger. It automatically goes to 2 times speed. Sorry, PVK, that I'm showing this before you're releasing it, but this point is just, it's illustrating a thing. We'll back it up a little bit.
Not out of that text, at least, because they don't come from the text per se. But that's what where the Holy Spirit leads. The Holy Spirit, we're in Lectio Divina. And when I teach Lectio Divina, one of the first things that I tell people is, during the course of Lectio Divina, you're going to be getting things that are not exegetically valid out of the text.
Okay. When you do Lectio Divina, you are going to get things that are not exegetically valid out of the text. Good Lord. There's so many assumptions within that thing. So like let's start off there. Thinking that you can do exegesis is rooted in a medium of certain philosophical frameworks like authorial intent and that there is meaning in a text. You could think that there are seeds of meaning in a text, but like thinking that information and words and definitions convey meaning is a philosophical assumption. It really is. Okay, we're going to keep going.
But that are not exegetically valid out of the text. But I am not about to tell the Holy Spirit what he can or cannot do with his own word.
So the Holy Spirit can awaken meaning that isn't actually present in the text, via the medium and the practice and the ritual of Lectio Divina. But like, oh man, I was just reminded of this. Shit, I almost want to look this up. This is another reference. Ted S. Jeez, I'm going to reach out to Ted S. because I haven't talked to him forever and he hasn't been around. I'm just going to go look it up. I'm going to look it up right now because it's important. We're going to go there after I finish this clip. Where would that be? Ted S. Yes, Arkansas, Convivium. Oh, come on. YouTube, sometimes Sometimes your playlist sucks. All right, let's finish this, and then I'm gonna show you that, because this video is, man, this is good at it. Ted killed it in this. We'll keep playing a little bit.
So, I mean, I get things out of Lectio that I would never teach. I would never preach them.
Yeah.
Not out of that text, at least, because they don't come from the text per se.
Yeah. That's what got me.
But that's where the Holy Spirit leads you to. And that's what's so critically important.
So like that, okay, Glenn, caveat, if you watch this, buddy, if you watch this, we could have a great, I think, well, maybe we could potentially have a great conversation about it. I have no doubt you would find me very confusing, and my ability to communicate things in a certain way for more technical kind of thinkers, not like circumambulating, intuitive, weird thinkers that wear cat t-shirts who don't own cats. I don't know that we could have a conversation. We could, once we would get to know each other, probably. PVK doesn't even like having these kinds of conversations with me, really. I think PVK enjoys me, but look at I got a text from Joseph Lambrecht. This is how you get the real insider track. Oh, they're family pictures. I will look at those later. I don't think Joseph is watching. That's very cute, though. Christmas pictures. I have a hair in my mouth. This is more like get people to leave stuff. Steep slope. Steep slope. This is what I would posit. This is my philosophical assumption or belief or conviction. Let's say it that way. There is no meaning in a text, per se. I think for you to think that there's a meaning in a text per se, you're thinking that the text is a static object, and you're going to get into the problems of consciousness and perception, and that the person is the nexus of all meaning. Because there is no, it's like a double slit experiment applied to a text. And the person, when they read a text, they bring all the myriad of relations that make up the multi-unity of their personhood to the text when they read the text. And that doesn't mean that it's arbitrary. It's not like postmodern absurdist arbitrariness, but it is relative, because everything is relative, because it's relational, because there are resonances and memory and resonance. And actually in that conversation, they talk about memory and resonance really well. Okay, I want to share the Arkansas Convivium just because it's fantastic. All right, let's see. Here we are. So one of the conferences that doesn't get talked about a lot in the TLC was this very small Arkansas Convivium. So Father Eric, who does not self-identify as being within the TLC, he is more the Jordan Peterson sphere, who I believe he streams Sunday nights on Jacob Federici's channel. Here we go. This one. Jess was here. Look. Dr. Jim was here. Father Eric was here. Ted was here. Ted has not been around recently. I'm gonna send Ted a message. But so Ted's lecture in this, I know I've talked about it a lot. I should put it in a list of like really great presentations of ideas that I think are very important. Let's just look into it.
Inscapes. What are we going to do?
It's on Gerard Manley Hopkins' a poem of his, and he talks about Inscapes. It's so flippin' good. Look at there's lots of comments in here. In order to understand the inscape of a person in a meaningful way, you have to face the inscape of death. Holy cow. Look at this. I've been doing stretches. Maddie, what's this game? Girl, MadFit. I like to stretch. Fleet Foxes, these Daily Wire, never Matt Fraud. I've never watched a video of yours in my life. I don't know why they're advertising you to me. So, God, that's good. What else do they talk about in here? If you don't see, this is the other thing too. If you don't have a word for it, it's harder to see it. So like, and C.S. Lewis says something like this too in his first book, the Space Trilogy. He's like, if you don't know what you're looking at, you actually can't see it. Okay, speaking of that, okay, I don't want to go too far afield because I think I'm going to open this. I'm going to open this up at some point, and I want to talk to people. and like, again, when I open it up, I'm gonna have some boundaries. Like, I don't, I'm not gonna let certain personalities come in and just dominate, because I don't want that to happen. So, just FYI, if you're gonna come in, doesn't mean you can't say your pieces, but man, it's such a good video. I'm gonna rewatch it. I highly recommend it. So if you want to look it up, Convivium 2023, Inscapes and Transcending Suffering. The Golden Echo. Look at this is that's Ted's page. I don't actually think he's been, let's check it out. Has he been, go away. Make it bigger. He's just been, stop. Damn. What the hell is happening? This, again, making it unwatchable. Yeah, he's been gone. Look, 1 year ago. All right. Anyhow, let's move on. What are we talking about? Where do I want to go now? Oh, the next place that I want to go is I want to go to Nathan Jacobs. I'm minorly acquainted with Nathan Jacobs. We've interacted a little bit before, but I don't have an ongoing relationship with him, and I don't really listen to his podcast. I'm not a very good Orthodox boy. The main thinking that I do isn't really, I go to the services, some of the services. I think that it's always felt like Orthodoxy is always felt like home. I mean, that's true. Like the spirit and the heart of what I know from the Orthodox Church feels very resonant with me. Again, back to resonances. But I don't consume a lot of Orthodox content, But let's go to Nathan Jacobs, because this is a little clip. I think it's a Peugeot clip talking to Nathan Jacobs about realism and nominalism and how he can't steelman nominalism and why. Let's share that, because I'm not sure what I think about it. Let's see if some thoughts come to mind as we watch this one. Here we go.
Into the world, we see certain structures. And the question for the realist is, when we look into the world, we see certain structures. And the question for the realist is, does the mind do that because those things are real? That's part of the structure of reality. Or are they mental fictions that we come up with and we pose in a world that's disordered? And somebody who listens to me had said, okay, could you give me your best steelman argument for nominalism, for the idea that these are just useful fictions? And I had to say, no, I can't. And the reason is because I don't even think nominalism is coherent. And here's why.
Also, here's the thing. Can you even think of the word steel manning, straw manning, star manning? What are we trying to, is this like a little bit of an anthropomorphizing of ideas? Are we to man? Can you man an idea? What is an idea? And this is a little bit of the realist, nominalist category. Like, are ideas real? And what does it mean for an idea to be real? And Nathan Jacobs, he'll get into it. He talks about why he's a realist and not a nominalist, and why he can't steelman nominalism. But I very much like the idea of star manning, because it's to the person, which is more fundamental. I think the person is more fundamental than the idea itself. So I won't interrupt anymore. Here we go.
Like, here's why. Because if I'm going to articulate it, I'm going to start to use realist categories. I'm going to say all of reality, that's one group, is composed of matter. Okay, that's another thing. And none of the structures, okay, that's another category of thing. In order to articulate it, I'm going to have to walk through a series of groups and structures and commonality and difference in order to articulate what I'm saying about nominalism, which is referentially incoherent, because if I'm going to articulate it in that way, I'm presuming realism while denying realism. It becomes incoherent. When we look into the world, we see.
So that's it. He says it becomes incoherent. So what is coherence? That's actually, I mean, that's like coherence. That makes me think of Charles Williams, because coherence what's the term? So I read Charles Williams' War in Heaven, and a local buddy, we read it in book club, shared a PDF with me. I think I probably talked about it in a different stream. It's a word he made up, but it's like the English word for perichoresis, which is like the dance of the Trinity. But it's like to co-inhere, coherence, to hold together. It's unity of multiplicity, co-inhering. What makes something cohere? And so this is gonna, I mean, we're gonna get here. It's like Ian McGilchrist, right brain, left brain, right? The ideas, the maps, and the territory, they need to relate. There needs to be resonance, corpus callosum in here somewhere. In here. There needs to be relations between those things, because if your idea or your conception of something doesn't cohere to reality, then ultimately it's not real. It would be and this is imagination, George MacDonald's imagination. It would be the difference between what he would call fancy, which is kind of non-real daydreaming of things that don't actually have like a reality in the physical material world somehow. And this gets to like when ideas are real, I'm open to the idea that ideas are real, but one of my definitional things is for something to be real to me, it's bodied. But not all bodies are material, physical, have matter. I think all bodies are related to matter. This gets complicated when it comes to God, because does God have a body, right? That's a different idea. I mean, there's very complicated metaphysics and Trinitarian things, and cosmological Christ, and like I think there are answers where you could say God's body is Christ, and that's also synonymous with his bride, the cosmos, like Marian theology, and then being united to Christ is what it means to be real, to be alive. And so to whatever degree that you are related to Christ, Christ, the only existent one, is a line from one of the Holy Week services in the Orthodox Church, is that like that is the tautological kind of thing, is like to exist is Christ. And so like that is the body of God. But I think something has to be bodied. So if an idea is real, the way that I think about it, and these are conversations I used to have with Sam and in group chats all the time, I think of this in terms of like angels. That I think if an idea is real, it's an angel. And there are different kinds of angels, right? That's where I like to talk about and show this picture from the book The Physics of Angels with Rupert Sheldrake, right? Because there's all these different angels, heavenly spheres, Dionysius. I mean, this is super old stuff, you know, where you have all these different realms of angels all the way down to Earth that are surrounding the Earth, which these have relationships to cosmology, right? And because there's all the planets that are related to them. So if an idea is real, I would say, I don't know which one. I don't know enough about this stuff. It relates to one of those realms of angelic realities, and so then it's real, because it's really and the idea is related to the person. The idea is the spiritual, seemingly abstract thing, but those are certain modern categories that we have, that is related to the angel that is communicating that idea via the radio of our brain, which is relating to our consciousness that exists transrationally, transjectively throughout time. All right, what else do I want to talk about? Oh, and I believe so. Also, I always bring up this thing. I'm just going to show it because I think that it's fantastic. When the Heart is Really Alive, George MacDonald and the Prophetic Imagination. Marcus Shera, he's going to be coming out talking about economics. So this is, I'll just play the part that I like from it. Can we do that?
Not so much to its art, the more things it will mean. It is there, the truer, genuine work of art, this is key, must mean many things. The truer it is, its art, the more things it will mean. It is there not so much to convey a meaning as, wait for the big verb, not so much to convey a meaning as to wake a meaning. And that's very much the experience, obviously, that...
There you go. I mean, that's just like, that's like a super condensed DNA coil. Like that seed, to me, that statement, that art and meaning is not conveyed. You can't convey the meaning of art. You can awaken it. Like if you understand that, it's almost like that's the George MacDonald line from Lilith, is just like, no man understands anything. When he understands that is his first tottering step, not towards understanding, but towards the capacity of one day understanding. And I think in the imagination essay, he calls the imagination the, what does he call it? The faculty of, something, faculty of thinking. Okay, let's move on from that one. I do want to play this section from Rogan and Cognitive Dissonance, and who knows, this might get taken down, but who cares? I mean, do we really care that much? If you're here, if you're present for it here, you will see it. I'll have to change it in my YouTube settings so that he's at least acknowledged and referenced, because I wasn't, when I did my whole thing, I didn't have it in there. Let's do it. Let's do it. Meow meow. Smoke break.
Of things. Well, and then apply that to religion.
Oh, let's go back.
Like stories.
Sorry.
Well,
So it's a lot of rabbit holes.
I've been excited to
No!
see this for a very long time.
Ah!
The book, the ultimate
Hate
guide
your
to
ads.
building.
I will
Look at that,
never
look at that,
buy
look at that
anything.
book.
What the context of this is, he's talking about tracing a quote and trying to figure out the origin of a quote and like where it came from. Was it in this book or was it in that book? Or they were referencing it, and how did it happen? And like, it's a funny story where he's talking about tracing this quote. And then Rogan, how he often does this with the Bible, and he's like, then apply that to religion, because then Rogan will often say, which again is the same fundamental assumptions that Glenn Sunshine has in like the exegesis of his text and Lectio Divina and why he wouldn't preach it. It's the same spirit, right? Rogan is over here is like, what is Rogan's belief? And what is this guy's belief? Again, these are in higher realms of egoic identity. It's because I like these ideas, and so I egoically relate to these ideas, and I'm a Christian because I like these ideas. Or I'm not a Christian, or I'm an agnostic because I don't like these ideas. That's all superficial, because fundamentally underneath that, assumptions of like how you act and interact in the world that come out when you're not really paying attention to it psychoanalytically in your conversation is, you say like, this text has a meaning, or what is the origin of this text? And like, what, because Rogan will say that, is like, what are the authors really saying? And can we believe it? And it's this telephone game of like translation of translation after translation. And it's like, okay, this is not text. Memory is the purveyor of reason. I love that quote. Again, that's another one. Add that to the list of Malcom Guite, that imagination quote of like, art and meaning isn't conveyed, it is awakened. Now add this one where it's what did I just say? Damn it. I already forgot the other thing I was going to quote. Whatever, we'll go on. Memory is the purveyor of reason. Look, I have it written. I have it written right here. Samuel Johnson. Memory sets the table of reason. And I often use this illustration, like 2 + 2 = 4, or 2 + 2 = 5. If you don't know what 2 is, and you don't know what plus is, and you can't remember what it is, logic will not get you there. Only memory will get you there. Logic is binary. The thing outside of the binary, the memory, the resonance that lets you give the context for what any of that means, even a number. What is a number? It's not a letter. How do you have that association? It's not the binary. It's the memory behind it. You cannot even reason if you don't have memory. You'll have nothing to play with. You'll have no tools. You'll just be swimming in your oceanic oneness. Okay, let's play.
Wow. Well,
so it's a lot of rabbit holes going down, even just to find the origins of things.
Well, and then apply that to religion. Like stories.
Oh yeah.
Like
Game of Telephone.
Oh my God. What was the original story? Yeah, it's a lot of this stuff, the secrecy, MK Ultra, all the stuff we're talking about oversight. It all relays to the way the human mind works. Mm-hmm. Like that the human mind, in this instance, would take a quote and for its own convenience, apply it to a different person and change it a little bit. Yeah. Like it's like we're constantly dealing with all of these factors that are in motion with human intelligence, with ego, with reputation, embarrassment, the ambition, power, control.
And one thing I especially noticed in doing this too is the
Here's another quote. That's all true because who said it? Upton Sinclair? Is it? It's hard to get a man to see something if his salary depends upon his not seeing it. You will have perhaps conscious, but I doubt it. They're probably unconscious reasons, motivations, values, fears, insecurities that will not allow you to be imaginatively open to seeing things differently. Because that's really it. In order to have intellectual repentance and growth, you have to be open. You have to not theoretically, not in a Sunday school answer. Because you ask anybody this in a Sunday school answer, they will say, yeah. Are you open to seeing things new? Of course they'll say that because they think too highly of themselves. But the truth is that for a lot of us, no. The answer is no. And we are bullshitting ourselves. Like, are you really open to seeing things differently? I don't know. I don't think most of us are. I don't think I often am. Like, I'm self-aware enough to not bullshit myself. I think I try to be. I really do try to be. But the reality is that most times you're not really. Because if you cannot genuinely, and I mean genuinely, earnestly imagine possibilities that you could be wrong about it, you can't accept something that because it's truth and falsehood, God and mammon, Christ and Antichrist. You can't believe either Christ or Antichrist, God or mammon, if it doesn't look authentic, if it doesn't look real, if it doesn't look like the real McCoy, right? Like if this didn't look like a cup holding coffee, I couldn't lie to myself to drink out of it. This is how deception works. This is why Satan is the prince of lies. He wouldn't be able to deceive you if the lie didn't look like something good. This is why every man is oriented toward the good. It's that Blaise Pascal quote about like all men seek happiness. This is without exception, even the man that hangs himself. Quick, we're gonna pause this one. We're gonna remove this, and we're gonna stop. We're gonna share a different screen for a second because it's this F. Scott Fitzgerald quote. You son of a gun. Pop up. Okay. Let me make a general observation. The test of a first-rate intelligence, and forget the ego of like whatever, intelligence. Intelligence isn't a virtue, okay? Virtue is better than intelligence. But the rate of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time. This is what I'm talking about with imagination. And still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see things that are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the impossible, often the impossible, come true. But this is very much related to what I was just saying about intellectual repentance. You cannot actually change your mind, really change your mind, until you accept the seed of the opposing idea, thought, world framework, truth. Like, this person is a good person. You will not accept even the seed of that until you're able to imagine it being true. Because you won't, your soil isn't isn't generative to that seed. You can't accept it to be awakened, for it to become real in your own life and body. And this will be very related to one more share screen, and then we'll go to the thing because it's related to this clip, but cognitive dissonance, because he explains the origin of the term cognitive dissonance is the mental discomfort experienced when a person holds two or more contradictory beliefs. Here's the thing. Contradictory, again, this is philosophy. Except, again, is this the realism nominalism thing? Is there such a thing as like true incoherence? These two things cannot work. Nominalism, realism, it's either or. So like they're contradictory. They do not cohere. They are incompatible. Does reality exist in dualistic incompatibilities? I'm not sure that it ever does, and this is why Tomberg in Meditations on the Tarot talks about antinomies. Again, like the fundamental worldview difference between a kind of dualism and a kind of Trinitarian dynamic monism is antinomies. Resonance. Again, that's resonance. That's relationships. This is relationship to this, and there's a implicit context between the two. So when a person holds two or more contradictory beliefs, because this is all fractally the same, this is in your head, two opposing ideas, right? That's what F. Scott Fitzgerald said. And these are inconsistent with their actions. Because you can't do that. I mean, you really can't. You can't simultaneously believe this is a cup holding coffee and it's a cup holding lava or poison. You can't equally believe both of those things and then think like, to my health. Like you can't, like those are incompatible. Right? Okay, we're gonna go back to the Rogan thing. And then I want to open it up to talk and play. I hope it's good. Listen, sometimes I have legitimate anxiety about opening up a stream because I'm just like, God, I hope I'm not an asshole. I hope other people aren't assholes. I hope I have framed this and spoken about it in a way where people will be on their best behavior. I mean, it's kind of like I have the same thing in my family, right? It's like when I'm dealing with kids and stuff, because I have all these anxieties because of past patterns of ways that my kids and that I behave, like one of them being resentment. Like I'm a resentful person. And so and that's something I'm actively working on, is I'm trying to not carry over that resentment into ongoing relational things, because that is like part of my, Tim Keller talked about this in his book, The Meaning of Marriage. That's part of my woundedness that I bring into new situations. Like I carry my past trauma and sins and generational hurts into new situations. And this is part of my participation in an interaction, because I'm projecting all sorts of things onto situations and carrying anxieties into it that are like my own shit, my own baggage, and that's for me to deal with. When I open up a stream, it's the same thing. I'm just like, oh shit, is Nathan gonna come? Like, what is Nathan gonna do and come in here? Is it gonna be a cool interaction with Nathan? Is it gonna be, or will it be bad? But then how will I handle that? How will I relate to that? Will it be positive or not? And Nathan, I use you as an example because you're you're making lots of comments, and because you have your reputation precedes you, sir. You have a storied history in the TLC and in your own channel. And by the way, I watched a little bit of your conversation with I can't even fucking call it a conversation, with what is that guy's name? Beat you with facts and logics, debate bro, kind of jerk, politically jerk dude. That was terrible. I feel like, either like in a joking levity way, I feel like Andrew, what's his name? Andrew something. What is the guy's name? You guys know what I'm talking about. I feel like I will go levity with it, and I would like, it's that Billy Madison clip where they're like playing Jeopardy, and he's just like, at no point in your incoherent rambling was there anything remotely resembling a coherent answer. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. Like at no point is this like that's like you could only hate watch that at best, or just be sad and cry. Like I think if people like, and I think Nathan, you would say that, like it was like you were, I don't know, it was like I'd rather have you fight. I'd rather watch MMA. It's terrible. Ugh. I can't. I don't know why you would do it. It makes me sad. It makes me sad that you'd even agree to doing it. Anyhow, okay, we'll move past my anxiety. Let's go back. Sorry, damn it.
Ability for humans to rationalize anything, to agree
really
with what they already think is true is almost limitless.
Yeah.
I give an example in anything
Okay.
in doing this too is the ability for humans to rationalize anything, to agree with what they already think is true is almost limitless. I give an example in this book of a psychologist named Leon Festinger. He wrote this book called When Prophecy Fails. And it's a really fascinating story where he was looking in a newspaper and he saw an announcement for the end of the world. There was this cult called the Seekers Cult, and they had said basically on December 21st, 1953, I think it was, it's going to be the end of the world. There's going to be a massive flood. Join us. And so we can get whisked away on the spaceship before the end of the world happens. Festinger sees this and he thinks this is a great psychological experiment because they are making a specific prediction. On this day, this is going to happen. What happens when it doesn't happen? So he decides to embed himself in this cult. Basically, they knew he was a psychologist, but they said, yeah, sure, come on by. So him and some of his researchers, they just sit with the cult on the day that the world is supposed to end because they want to know, how are they going to deal with the fact that the world doesn't actually end? So,
okay, he's talking about rationalization, confirmation, or cognitive dissonance, confirmation bias, cults. We'll get back to it. But he said if the world's going to end, which just made me think of the J.P. Sachs song, "If the world was ending, you'd come over, right?" Which, whatever, it's not like a hype. McMo, don't come after me with like, I would not be a Catwoman. Not true. Don't come after me with your music criticisms. But J.P. Sachs does have this new song called Safe. Love it. I just had to give a quick music recommendation. Love that song. Okay, we'll go back. Cults, because they predicted the end of the world, right? Rationalization is what we're talking about. Let's go back.
Obviously, there wasn't even a light rain. There was like no flood. And so the world doesn't end. Some people actually do end up leaving the cult afterwards, but many people stay, especially the people who had sunk many costs into the cult. They had abandoned their families to join this. They had donated lots of money. They had quit their jobs basically to be in this cult because they thought the world was going to end. What do we need money for? And so those people stayed. And now Festinger coined the term cognitive dissonance. So the idea that you're holding two irreconcilable views in your mind at the same time. So one of their views is we predicted because we have received revelations from God, basically, that the world was going to end on this day. That's one position they're holding. The other position is the world didn't end on that day. So this is cognitive dissonance. How do we reconcile the fact that these two things contradict each other, but we have to believe both of them? So Festinger was interested in how they would do this. There were a couple rationalizations originally. One was, well, maybe God meant it in a figurative sense, not a literal sense. Maybe it was a figurative flood that was going to cleanse our minds of, something, instead, not like a literal flood that was going to kill everyone. But then they said, no, we actually thought it was going to be a literal flood. So he's in the middle of their discussions when they're rationalizing this. And they eventually come upon the conclusion, God was going to destroy the world. We were right to believe that he was going to do that. But because he saw how fervently we believed in him and how fervently we believed that the world was going to be destroyed, he decided to have mercy on us and didn't destroy the world. So the fact...
What's so crazy is like most people will listen to this and they'll be like, oh, because automatically we have the training and the magic narratival indoctrination, catechesis to be like, oh, cults are crazy, right? Cult people are crazy people. Again, go back and watch the Nick B conversations. Nick B is amazing. So we think, oh, automatically cult people are crazy. They thought the world was going to be flooded. Those silly bastards. They thought the world was ending. What a bunch of silly bastards. This is how, like openness to 98th percentile openness. This is how open I am, truly. And this is kind of how, because I think the world is like a dream. I'm not an objectivist. Maybe they're right. Maybe God didn't destroy the world because they repented. Do you believe in the book of Jonah? What about Abraham and the visitors? And like, how about if 77 repent? How about 7? How about 1? How does God work in the world? Does it matter what we do? Are we fatalists? Are we fatalist objectivists? I don't know. Like, this is true. I'm not saying like they were right. Hell if I know. I don't know anything. Because I trust George MacDonald, and I'm on that first tottering step, not towards understanding, but towards the capacity of one day understanding. Dunning-Kruger, I've fallen off the peak of Mount Stupid, God willing, hopefully. Maybe not all the ways, but in a lot of the ways. And so I don't automatically just assume cult people are crazy. You know? I can't stand at that monarchical vision objective place to say that. And that doesn't mean I don't have like instantiated certain reasons to push me one way or the other due to conviction, because I'm embodied. I have to. I am standing someplace. Okay.
That we believed that the world was going to be destroyed is the reason why the world wasn't destroyed. So the evidence against them becomes evidence for them. We know we are right because the world wasn't destroyed, because, you know, that proves that God was taking mercy on us. Wow. So this is how they rationalize it. So this is, you know, not.
See, there's all those subtle things, like Rogan laughing. He's like, wow, you know, and I don't want to project on him what all that means, but it's like, it probably means like those silly, crazy bastards.
Unfalsifiable, something that there's no way you could prove it wrong. This is an indication of a bad theory if it's non-falsifiable. It's like not tethered to reality.
Also, I hate unfalsifiability. Almost now, this doesn't mean I'm not incapable of changing my mind, but almost everything that I believe is not falsifiable. Like what evidence would I need to think there isn't God? I don't even know how to answer that question. I think, again, unfalsifiability, say that 18 times fast. Again, that has certain assumptions, that you believe things based in evidence. And it's not evidence, it's more like trust. You have trust in certain people that may push you this way or push you that way. And you're just like, do I have more or less reason to believe that this has poison versus whatever? And how much does my belief in that or thought about that affect reality? I mean, I don't know.
Gold medal mental gymnastics.
Exactly. If something's non-falsifiable, you know, for the classic example for me of non-falsifiability is the concept of last Thursdayism. So it's the idea that God created the universe last Thursday. Now, how could I prove that wrong? You know, I ask my students this, and many of them say, well, I remember like last Wednesday. I remember time before last Thursday. But no, of course you remember that, but God created you and your memories last Thursday. So of course you would think that there was time before last Thursday because God implanted those memories in you last Thursday. In other words, this is just a non-falsifiable belief. You can't prove it wrong, but that doesn't mean it's right. So the capacity for humans to rationalize things, if you start from a false premise, we can rationalize a world to make sure that we believe in that false premise.
Yes. Well, we do that with everything. We do that with religion. We do that with ideologies. We do that with everything.
And it's not.
But like, that's just, yes. But is that rationalization, or is it just like imagination? Because this is the problem. This is why Grimgriz does savings throws, and you should always. I mean, it's a good thing to be aware of this, because what you aren't aware of, you can't do anything about. You can't actually exercise your mind and potential and your will to change anything that you're not aware of, that you're not looking at, that's not salient to you. And so, but like, you have a narrative in your imagination about what is. And is that rationalization? Is that confirmation bias? It's just like, no, we are all living as embedded creatures within narratives and stories. How could it be otherwise?
It's, you know, the capacity for humans to rationalize things. If you start from a false premise, we can rationalize a world to make sure that we believe in that false premise.
Yes. Well, we do that with everything. We do that with religion. We do that with ideologies. We do that with everything.
And it's you know, people typically associate rationalization with religion or this kind of cult behavior, like this group I explained. But
this is the part that I like, because he says, yeah, people associate this with religion and cult behavior, but guess what? It happens in science.
But actually, I'm a historian of science, and it actually plays an important role in science itself, like the method of science, how science works. if you don't
plays
mind,
an
if I can
important
briefly
role.
describe the philosophy of Thomas Kuhn. He's this famous philosopher.
Thomas Kuhn, PBK.
He wrote the most influential book in the philosophy of science called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, basically explaining how does science change or progress over time. His concept was that scientists operate within a paradigm, a worldview. So we believe in Newtonian, gravity, or we have the worldview of, the germ theory of disease, or whatever it is. So this is our paradigm, whatever group of scientists we are. Within that paradigm, we do normal science. He says puzzle solving. We do experiments to try to prove our paradigm right. So if my paradigm is, if I'm a follower of Ptolemy and I believe in the geocentric universe, I'm going to be observing the way that the planets and the stars are moving across the sky to try to prove Ptolemy right. I'm going to try to prove that his predictions actually come true. So this is just called puzzle solving. What scientists actually do, Thomas Kuhn says, many of them, they just puzzle solve. They just try to prove the paradigm right. In the process of doing that, they uncover occasionally an anomaly. An anomaly is something that seems to contradict the paradigm. Like, okay.
Also, anomaly, right? Contradicts the paradigm. Jordan Peterson, I can't remember where. He has a great clip about this, is where that's error. Error manifesting is revelation. It's correcting your paradigm. It's saying your map of the territory is not right. Because I keep trying to drive to this place, but I keep ending up in a different place. That is a revelation. Something that was you were not previously aware of. It was not salient to you. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, does not work, does not work, does not work. That's a gift, if you will receive it, to correct your map so that you can live better with God, reality, what is. And so that's an anomaly. An anomaly is a good thing. Thank God for your anomalies. Thank God for when things don't go your way. Man plans his way, God directs his steps.
Okay, Ptolemy makes this prediction about where the planet should be, but it turns out the planet's actually not there. It's a little bit off. That's an anomaly. And Kuhn says, what do scientists do with anomalies? Do they throw out their theory? No. He says they either ignore it or they find a way to rationalize it. Well, Ptolemy made that prediction, but it's close enough to where it's, his theory still works for most of the observations we're making. So scientists usually ignore or rationalize the anomaly. But over time, as they do more and more puzzle solving, normal science, more and more anomalies crop up to the point where we just can't ignore them anymore. There are just too many anomalies. At a certain point, we realize that our worldview, our paradigm must be wrong. And Kuhn says this allows for a crisis within the scientific community. The group of scientists within this paradigm, they enter a crisis period. And it's during that crisis period when...
Liminal moments, Richard Rohr, 3 boxes, order, disorder, too many anomalies, the paradigm doesn't work, pulls the rug out, liminal moment, where am I? Where am I standing? Reorder. That's called the spiral and not the Ouroboros. It's great. It's a good thing.
Someone can put forward an alternative paradigm that accounts for all those anomalies, and then we accept that as our new paradigm. So it accounts for all the things that the previous paradigm could do, in addition to all the anomalies that the previous paradigm couldn't account for. Now we're in a new paradigm, and what do? We do puzzle solving. We try to prove our paradigm right, and in the process, we uncover anomalies. And we rationalize them away. But the reason I raise this point is because one of the integral parts to the progression of science, says Thomas Kuhn, is the fact that scientists are stubborn. The fact that, contrary to popular belief, we typically think of scientists as people.
What's another word for stubborn? Dogmatic? Scientists are stubborn. Scientists are dogmatic. Huh. They're slow to change. Is that good? Maybe is it Chesterton's fence? Nick, free-willian scientists, they don't want to change their ideals, their paradigms. Meow, meow.
People who are really open to changing their minds, they're confronted by evidence, and so, okay, they're willing to accept this evidence. Thomas Kuhn says, if you actually look at the history of science closely, that does happen, but what also happens in a lot of instances is scientists are stubborn and they don't want to change their minds. They're stuck on their paradigm, and so they rationalize away the anomalies. So the same kind of rationalizing that you have within the seeker's cult about their belief system is very similar to the kind of rationalizing that scientists are doing when they refuse to throw out their paradigm because they've uncovered these anomalies, but surely there's a way we can make those anomalies fit with our paradigm instead, and they don't. So This isn't to say that scientists are members of a cult or anything like that. In fact, there are good reasons to maybe elevate the predictions of scientists over those of these cult members, because there are structures in place within the scientific community to prevent some of the more egregious biases that they have. However, really what I consider Kuhn as, it's a commentary on human psychology. Kuhn basically figured out cognitive dissonance before Leon Festinger, but Kuhn didn't have that terminology. Festinger is describing cognitive dissonance in these cult members. Kuhn is describing it in scientists. He just doesn't have that terminology, but that's just what it is. And Kuhn says that's why science progresses. It's necessary for those people to ignore that evidence because it enables them to keep uncovering more anomalies that eventually leads to the revolution. So it's an ironic thing that our ability to rationalize is what allows us to progress in the future.
So like not being confessionally bound in a way that won't actually allow evolution and change. So like that, it's not, it's like it's a feature, not a bug.
Feature.
Wow. This is the perfect point to take a break because I have to take a leak. So this is awesome. We'll be right back.
Okay, we're almost there. I'm going to stop it pretty soon. Rogan says something because I was re-listening to this when I was shoveling. He says something and then I want to stop it and then I'll open this up because I mean that's enough. That's enough stuff, right?
Sorry about that. But I'm glad we took a break right after that epic rant. That was so good. I mean, you just nailed it. It's so perfect that there's this bizarre psychological dance when it comes to human beings, even scientists.
Yeah, and it's the main point to make is that it's not the main point is just that human psychology is human psychology. Just because you're a scientist or a cult member or whatever, it's not as if you're immune to any of these tendencies. Anyone is subject to them. It's just human psychology. So I tend to think of Thomas Kuhn in terms of psychology instead of philosophy.
Yeah, well, it's brilliant, and it also all that understanding of human psychology is really what leads us to even begin to wonder what is going on with the human mind. How do you exploit it? What can you do? And then you get people like Sidney Gottlieb who make a fucking career out of it. they're realizing they're like very bizarre, complicated thinking apes. And we have tendencies and we have these things that we do that protect ourselves, and we have these desires and we have these motivations, and how do we exploit that? How do we do that
So I mean, I don't want to go here. I think that was it. I think because he said we're very complicated thinking apes, and then he was recently on this podcast with where he's like in like 80s looking Star Trek future thing. He recently did some podcasts where he's talking about Book of Enoch and all that stuff, and he's like, and he thinks we are the Nephilim, but like Rogan has a weird like he says consciousness is really important, and he'll say things like consciousness is fundamental and essential and really part of what makes us human. And then he'll say, then he has these weird materialist tendencies. Okay, whatever. Let's open it up. Let's play for a while. The rules. Here we go. Rules. The rules for my flotilla platform for this stream that I am managing and that I have the sweet power just pulsing through my veins. Where I can mute people, I can boot people, I can when I was just doing that intense thing, I was thinking about how I used to just like when I was a little kid, I used to just make my face as red as I could. Should I do it? Okay, I'm seeing stars. I don't want to do that anymore. When I went too hard, it's like doing smelling salts. I'm seeing stars. All right, take a drink of water. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, guys. The rules. The rules are don't talk over each other. If you're prone to talking a lot, I should probably just write these down somewhere and figure out how to put them in my community thing. If you're prone to talking a lot, be aware of that. Don't talk as much. Try to listen. as much as you talk. Try to ask genuine questions. Don't call names. Try to starman people. Try to assume the best in people. Be leery of the baggage that you bring into conversations and to assumptions and projections you may have about people. You know, all that kind of stuff. I think this is all. Man, this is all stuff people know. Sometimes when I like wiping off my thing on my Mac, I'll just like swipe the mouse thing and I disappear. I leave the studio. All right, so I'm gonna open this up. Let's have a good conversation. There's also a plan somewhere in the works where I might do more nighttime streams. I hate nighttime stuff because I feel like I'm half brain dead. But here we go. I encourage you to break the fourth wall. I encourage you to come onto the screen. This isn't just content. You don't have to just watch me. You don't have to just listen to people talk. You could come on and talk. Wouldn't that just be great? You know? Come on, share your thoughts. Get to meet people, because that is something that PVK spoke about. Oh, Mark Parker's doing the sneaky stuff. He's not calling me, but he's but Glenn Sunshine that he talked about with PVK oh, look at lots of people. Here we go. Sorry, I was pinning it. Here we are. Welcome, friends. Hello. Who? Christian. I'm just gonna go in order. Christian, what's up? How you doing, buddy?
Do you have a name?
I can barely hear you. I think you must be coming through a different mic.
I'll fix it.
Okay, you fix your stuff. What's up, Mr. Fun?
Not much. I forgot that was what I put my name to as well, so it took me a second to know. I'm good. I had things to say about the topics you were talking about, so that's why I am here, but I will not say them right now because people are introducing themselves.
All right, look at you. Oh, look at, I'm gonna show, look at this guy. Look at Mark Parker with his cat shirt, and it's purple. I like purple shirts. That's wonderful. I like bright colors. Jess, yeah, let's do.
I'm breaking the fourth wall finally.
Oh, thank God. What's your name?
My name's Jess. I've been lurking in the corner for 17 years.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you came out. What encouraged you to come out today? You just want to show people your yellow plaid shirt?
Well, I was gonna cuss you out, but now that I'm in person, I'm gonna behave.
Thank you. Yeah, you are an aggressive, angry person in general. That's what I've heard in the comments.
We got
Okay,
Christian.
Michael.
Hey, Christian. Hey, Michael. Hey, Mr. Fun.
Michael, you can say hello, and then Christian, do you have your mic fixed?
Check 1, 2.
Oh, so much better. Just
wow,
juicy,
radio
hot and
voice.
heavy, that voice. Woo!
And here's Lance coming in hot.
Woo! All right. Yeah, let's just, whatever. Yeah, we all know Lance. Lance is great. I'm happy you're all here. Let's just chat. Let's hang out. Let's talk. It can be open forum.
So are we supposed to be stubborn all the time, and then just when the anomalies become too much, then we have to give up, go on to something new, transform?
Well, I suppose, right? Because if the stubbornness that he's talking about, you would be changing so much as to not even live. I think there would be so many, you have to embody consistent patterns enough to be habituated in the world, If you're changing it up so much, it would just be like a nonstop. It's like why people don't do LSD and psychedelics all the time. Is like there's too much variance in it. You have to have enough order to function. It's like with the left brain map stuff, even though, the Lorax does not like the left brain, right brain thing in the comment. But like if your map, you have to have maps to do anything in the world, like we're building a bridge together. What is a bridge? Like you all have to have consistent ideas about that. You can't just like go off into philosophy land of like, what really is a bridge, and like what it,
Sounds like a map is something in philosophy land.
A map?
As you're discussing it, yeah, as you mean it when you say that, right? It sounds like you're sort of theorizing and postulating an entity called a map that is required in order for people to do things like build bridges. I mean, that sounds like a part of philosophy land in my view.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a narrative. It's a narrative structure, yeah, and a map that it's just like you do this, then this, then this. It's a formalized set of operations.
The thing you said about also like you can't change it up too much. I mean, if it worked right, then you could. I mean, the point being that if it worked, then that wouldn't be true. Like you like give it a go, see what happens. Basically, if it doesn't work, sure, right? Don't continue doing something that isn't working. But it seems like our criteria are going to be whether or not these things work to help us achieve whatever our aims are.
I mean,
I'm trying to concretize it a little bit of like even anomalies. Can we think of a good example of like my goal, right? Of what I want, my aim, my telos, my value is like I want to shovel the driveway, and so the narrative that I have is like, well, I go get the scoop shovel and I push it in front of me and I move the snow and I do this. But then if I was like, well, what if I just flip that snow shovel over though? Like try it that way.
But imagine you were like gave that a go, and I don't know, say your values are to shovel the snow and also to get it done as fast as possible. Imagine you started doing that and you found that it was taking you way less time to shovel the snow, right? You might just continue doing it.
Sure.
So the question is just whether or not it works. I don't think there's like a general rule decontextualized here. There's just going to be specific contexts where that won't work and specific contexts where that will work as a approach.
Right. And I suppose the stubbornness, Jess, to what you were saying is like it would be, like someone has been using the shovel upside down for a lot of years and they're like, that's just the way we do it. Like and it seems like, well, it doesn't work well. Like I think it would be better if you've turned it over. Like you could carry more snow, and they're like, listen, that's not the way we do things. Like that's the stubbornness, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like some sort of beautifully poetic example of someone being stubborn in the face of practicality. Like I'm trying to think of something. It doesn't really come to mind, but something like where someone's taking care of a garden in the middle of a war or something. Just
Franz Jägerstätter, man. He was stubborn in the face.
Yeah.
Just go be a medic. Just go do it. He's like, I can't.
Yeah.
Like I can't do that.
Yeah, I had lots of things popping off when you first talked here, but so what's stubborn? An addict or an alcoholic remains extremely stubborn in the midst of calamity all around them until they hit some point to where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, there's a gift to being an addict or an alcoholic. And the gift is you have this thing that becomes so obvious that you realize you have to do things differently, right? What they describe, and I want to share some things, what they describe is like, yeah, you have this thing, but what you have is the spiritual malady, right? Then they have this chapter to the we agnostics, and they basically address all sorts of people. Either you're the hyper-religious guy that can't stay sober, right? So you got all your confessions and doctrines right, but you're the guy that's going out and getting drunk and high all the time, right? Or you're the person that's been hurt by church, or you're an atheist, or you're a scientific, rational sort of person or whatever. But they just, at the end of that, they say, when we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. They're just trying to get you to open your mind, right? Okay. So you get into this how it works. And this is right before you get into a spiritual program of action. But rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Like when we start talking about rationalization, this is a big tenet of 12-step programs. Rationalization at its core is really you lying to yourself. So this constitutionally capable of honesty, it's not just like cash register honesty. although that's certainly part of it. That's like a lower level of like prepare yourself to be honest. Like one of the things you can do is like quit stealing from people. Like let's start, let's work our way further up, further in. And so they're trying to open you up to the spiritual program of action. And they basically say that some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. So you need to just kind of give yourself up, all your thoughts about God, this, that, life, relate. Hey, guys, it's not working for you. And I love that line and I keep coming back to it. And so there's a mindset of, okay, I'm going to try let go of all my old ideas. And that can even be a Christian guy coming into AA and willing to put Christianity on the table, Christ on the table, right? Okay, I have all this stuff, but I'm going to go on the spiritual program of action. And right after that, the whole steps are going to try and get you into a repentance path, which at the end you have a spiritual awakening of. And step 3, which it talked about, which we get in really early, that people get in really early, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. You learn to understand him through practice. And like Evagrius Pontus talks about, praxis leads to gnosis. The practice of the gospel virtues will lead you to gnosis, the knowledge of God. The
Digital gnosis?
Further in. There you go. So like when I was thinking, we was talking about all these worldviews and something like that. I guess the thing that I have to challenge myself with, and I think we all need to challenge ourselves with, are you willing to put all your old ideas always on the table? Like, I mean, are you living a life where you're doing that? And I think ultimately the proof comes out in the pudding, which is, how are your relationships? Like, go down a list of all of these different things. Like, hey, crisis is all around you. Like, it doesn't mean your life's going to go great, but are you handling yourself with some sorts of grace and dignity and you're not burning everything down around you? Because, there's all sorts of ways to kind of figure that stuff out. And so, and we've talked about, like you've talked about, Luke, which is like wear life like a loose garment. It's like wear your ideas like a loose garment. Like, are we willing to put our dogmas on the line?
But there's some, I want to, the guy was talking about in the video is there is something to stubbornness, because I think about my number 1 played artist of 2025, Maddie Diaz. The first song I ever heard of hers has this lyric. It's the song Nervous. And she says, the chorus goes, I have so many perspectives, I'm losing perspective. I make myself nervous. And like, that's how I can often feel as like a codependent radical empath. And as somebody who's very high in openness, is like, even with my kids or my wife or anyone comes up to some idea with me. And I'm like, I don't know, I can see that. Like, that makes sense to me. But when you're so open to things constantly, like if I was just like, maybe, I just had a big fight with my wife. Maybe she really doesn't love me. Maybe I've been wrong about that. Like, she was the one for me way a long time ago. And I should be open that like the true love of my life is this other person, there's something to the kind of stubbornness that keeps you in the rationalization of the narrative. Like, where is it, like, is it all just like semantics? Like, this is rationalization because it's bad, right? Which is a judgment. And this is like, no, like a conservative Chesterton's fence. Like, we don't want to be flippant. Like, we don't want to be careless about changing our minds about stuff.
Yeah. I think the key, and I'll shut up. So the key to that is why do you have a sponsor, right? Why do you have a spiritual father? You have that person outside of you who, when you're on your bullshit, Luke says, "Not Luke, you're just on your bullshit right now." Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're being stubborn. This is just you being stubborn, right? You having someone is for you, and it needs to not be someone like you certainly need to work with your spouse or whatever, but it's good to have someone outside of your spouse, right? That knows you and is for you. And that's why when you do a lot of this deep stuff that they know you, that can basically say, hey, maybe you just shut up for a little bit. Like, okay, how about you not quit worrying about the other person? And why don't you just worry about your side of the street on this a little bit? Just sorts of things like that. So I think doing it in community and closely with someone who can do that helps keep you out of your own BS. But instead of in stubbornness, I think of Job and his integrity. He would not compromise on his integrity. And everyone was telling him, you must have done something wrong. And he's like going, no, So, like, in
Do you
a
think
simple
that's more of
sense,
a feeling then, like the Franz Jägerstätter thing? Do you think it's more of like a deeply heartfelt, intuitive thing versus an idea? Because that's what all the people, and maybe that's Job too, right? I mean, it's kind of like Franz Jägerstätter, where all the people are like, "This is what's going on," and he's like, "I don't know, I don't know about all that. I just know I can't do this." Like it's just if it's not really, it's not a feeling in that it's mere emotion. It's just like, I think that's where like that integrity is a real thing. Like this feels in my body like a betrayal. And Cormac, it's always himself. The coward betrays first. After that, all the
The
betrayal.
baby.
Oh, it's such a little
The little
baby.
tiny Santori.
It's a little junior. That's a boy.
I'll shut up.
Okay.
What do you think, Jess, about that?
Yeah, I
integrity
think.
and stubbornness?
I mean, there's something. I mean, just to pull Job in here, like, because Job is. I mean, if there's a word for him, he is definitely stubborn, and he's stubborn about justice. As a man of justice himself, and as a man who like sort of put his life on that, and it's not. You know, and then he wishes God to actually be just as well. And then he's going to bring up all the anomalies that sort of point against that. And then he imagines that there possibly could be something to justify all the anomalies as well. And he wants to know what that is. Like, how is God running this place? Like, because it looks like it looks arbitrary, and it doesn't look good. But he still kind of holds on to this hope that there is some sort of reason that he could hold on to, that he could understand. And basically at the end of it, I think, you know, it's one of the things God's speech does is it brings up even more anomalies, which is what Chesterton talks about. It is like, man is most satisfied in paradoxes. So there's some sort of, I don't know how this works. Like, I don't have a way to necessarily make sense of it, but the paradoxes become such to which they become something that you can sort of, you can be satisfied with, or you can accept on, you know, when he says, I repent in dust and ash, you know, but it's not just that God brings up more paradoxes. It's the way in which God does it, because the language is about creation, but it's also the language of mother, father, midwife, birth, life. This kind of, it's the whole tone of it. It's very strikingly different than how Job talks about the arbitrariness of it, and then it's very different than how the friends talk about God in a purely just manner, that God is always doing what is right, and it's plainly understood by us as what is right. And God comes out, and he, you know, most people summarize God's speech by saying, like, God's saying to Job, "Who do you think you are?" And there's a little bit of that, but his first question to Job is, "Where were you?" And that's a different question. And well, I don't know, because like, we're obviously going to be presented with more paradox or more anomalies than we can necessarily handle, but then also Job is sort of commended for his integrity and being stubborn about it. And I think there's something to there's something beautiful about people they're just stubborn about something they think is, when they're being stubborn about something they think is good and right.
Is this why Peter Rollins thinks the fundamentalist is right and not the mystic anymore?
Yeah, I think so, because like the state like for example, the state can cause anomalies for the individual, or the media landscape can cause anomalies for the individual on purpose, just to get you to shift off your integrity, I think. Or that, I mean, that's like, they want you to be able to compromise because they need you to not necessarily hold anything too tight, because if you have too stubborn of a population, what happens if you need to make big changes? You can't do it. You have to like get consensus, and you have to like get people's permission, and you have to get all this stuff. And so because the technological state apparatus can produce anomalies in people's lives, they can coercion through punishments or imprisonment, or it could be just small things like we're not going to pick up your trash on time, and then you're like, well, what are we not doing wrong? And all of a sudden we have to vote for this guy instead of that guy, and to get this thing passed. Or I don't know if any of that makes any sense. That's kind of where, because like when to be stubborn and when to allow to transformation, I guess is the question. Because being stubborn in your addiction, like Lance was talking about, is not good. So you have someone on the outside that's able to tell you whether you're being stubborn in a good way or a bad way. But being stubborn for your integrity, even when you're getting fined or something, maybe it's just like, I'll take the loss. I know what the punishment is, but I don't think it's right, so I'll just do that. I don't know, what do you guys think?
It's making me think about like these seasons where you need coherence and you need like cohesion, and then I guess the anomaly that takes kind of a strong will, but then you also have to have this like response because it always corrupts. And so but maybe we get stuck in these frames where it's like, knowing what season are we in? Are we in the day of like needing protest? Or are we in the day of needing cohesion? And like, so that like which side is corrupted? Which side is being stubborn in a sense, maybe unnecessarily, because it's the frame in which or that was successful at one point or something like that. And it seems like those kind of patterns, they show up, historically, biblically, in our individual. And sometimes, like a lot of times, we want to take these down, like, which is necessary. Like Lance takes it down to like the individual, the person. But these things also, they happen fractally at these different levels, like, and it's hard. It seems like it's just hard to know because we don't know. Like Job didn't know, like why, but it ultimately, it seems like there's something related to faith because, and this is just a very cursory, like top level. I'm no Job expert at all, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. In a sense, was you don't have any faithful people, God, says Satan. He's like, well, test my servant Job. And Job's like, why? He's like, you don't need to know why, because that is the test. It's your faith. And so it's like, in these seasons, we want to know, we want specificity, we want answers. But we have to like something related between faith and purpose on, because take it back to the snow shovel thing or whatever, like, what's my purpose out here acting in faith? But then there's also just like the greater parts of life where we make these decisions, like as groups, as people on the internet, people in our communities, people in government. I don't know. That's what's rolling through my mind.
Nathan, any thoughts?
Baby man.
I just think it's not that deep, like, to a lot of this stuff. I mean, I think we all just agreed at the start, like, there's no general rule here. A bunch of stuff's complicated, and like that's kind of the end of it. And then I'm happy to put it to rest. I don't know.
How do you know in your life? How do you know when to be stubborn about something or when to like let it go?
Either works or it doesn't, I guess, would be my thinking. Like, you know, either things get better or they don't get better.
It's so hard to measure any of that stuff. Like I say, like, as if it works. Right now I'm in a phase of raising teenagers, and me and my wife, we talk about this a lot, is I feel like I strangely have peace about this, but I feel like I'm very much in an Ecclesiastes time of life where it's just like vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Why the hell am I doing anything? This doesn't appear to be working. What is working even meaning? What are my goals? What do I want my kids to do? What, you know?
Look, I think though that isn't in tension with what I'm saying, because you know, what I'm saying is that if you had an answer, like a general theory here that gave you like rules and things, it wouldn't make any difference to that. And so it's a bad question with a series of bad answers to it. And you know, like the genuine answer to the bad question is it depends. And then we can go on and ask a bunch of better questions. Like a better question is, how can I be a better father? Or like, how can I raise these kids? And like, you know, if we talk about those things, we might make some progress. We might get clear about things. People might have some input that could actually help you or affect your life. But if we talk about like, you know, what's the general rule for all domains and things people do everywhere about whether you should change your approach or continue with the same approach, I mean, you're just going to run on a treadmill to nowhere.
Right. And that probably ties back into the monologue stuff of like information versus meaning and awakening meaning and imagination, because in talking about the practical dynamics of like, how can I be a better father or something, what actually happens if something awakens in you that allows you to reorient in your life in a way where you behave differently and change and grow and evolve and become a better father is that you're able to imagine a new way of being or a new tact or approach or way of thinking about it that is different than what you previously did before, because before all you had was like this option. Like that was it. You were just doing that over and over and over. And then somebody says something where you're like, oh, well, I could just do that, and it becomes real and awaken and meaningful for you in a way where you could actually behave differently, and then you can change, grow, and evolve. But that's an imaginative process. You know, it's not just information. Nobody can just like give you. They maybe are speaking in informational terms, and they'll say like, maybe try this, do whatever. But like, it doesn't become meaningful until your imagination really can receive that. You know.
I basically agree. I mean, I don't have this view of language as like communicating either information or representational content or something. I think that words are behaviors that we perform, and we perform those behaviors to try and bring about a certain effect, often socially, in people. So the way that those social technologies work in the sciences is that we train ourselves to put those into practice with the use of like technical equipment, piece of apparatus. In mathematics, we learn to do these things with symbols that we can do in other contexts. But socially, you know, like, sure, I could produce a bunch of sentences that don't have the intended effect on you. Like, so for example, you might be like, look, I'm struggling with whatever problem, and you know, in some far-fetched universe I actually give you some useful advice around that, but you go away and don't quite implement it right, and you're like, look, this thing you said isn't working. And then I'd be like, well, the intended effect was this and not that, right? And we have these kind of resources within the communicative technology of language to have back and forths and like try and zero in on goals and things, and I think that's what goes on.
David, welcome.
Sorry.
You can talk. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the big question for me is my filter on what does working mean, right? So like, if Jess is here, but you go back to Job and they would say, hey, I mean, clearly what you're doing isn't working because everything is gone to crap around you, right? So working, what does working mean for me? Is it material stuff and all this other sort of things, or you know, what are the right measurements for whether something is working? And again, I'll take it all the way down to the individual Christian, right? There's a certain spiritual fitness about yourself, in condition, I should say, that is allowing you to be of good impact on those around you, right? And good luck, Luke, trying to figure out the parenting matrix. I mean, you talk about the variables and the complexities and whether you're doing right or wrong. I think ultimately, leading in love and doing the best. Love covers a multitude of sins in that environment, thank God, right? But yeah, I think that's part of the thing is trying to get yourself the right sort of framework on like, okay, what works, right? And so what do you mean what works for you? Like what are you trying to strive towards, right?
Yeah. Because that's the Job thing or the Abraham thing, and I think the essence of faith. And I mean, within Christian, like whatever doesn't come from faith is sin, and I think that's what Abraham and Job are doing. It's just like they have this. It's a weird non-dual thing where they're just like, I am like Abraham. Everything that every model and narrative and frame and structure that I have for what my hope is in is here in Isaac, and I'm gonna kill that. But somehow that's okay because I trust God, but not in any way that I could ever name and articulate outside of like I just trust Him that'll be okay.
I find a lot of this very difficult to try to formalize. I was talking to Jess about this recently. I think that a big part of how Saul and David are described in 1 Samuel is David makes every single mistake that Saul makes, but somehow David's good when he does it. Right? And if you've ever worked in youth group, or like I was even a ref in soccer, and you could piece together bad kids, right? And so something that would not necessarily get one kid a yellow card would get another kid a yellow card because you could decipher intention, and you're essentially, all of a sudden you realize it's like, I think that's a bad kid who acts in malice. And another kid could do the exact same thing, and I would say, oh, that was an accident. He just bumped into him. Whereas like that kid didn't accidentally bump into. That kid is looking for harm, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the Calvinist likes this as well, because I also don't know. I don't know how to make any of this stuff work for myself either, because
one is good, one is evil.
Right, one is good, one's evil.
One's a vessel for wrath, and the other one is
based in nothing of their own. It's right. Just that one good.
And my dad, like I use this as an example because it's even the same person. My dad, when I became a Christian, hated every single argument for God's existence until 3 years ago. So for 20 years of my faith, of me talking to him about God, nothing. Just made him dig his heels in deeper, hated it.
Like before it was a smoke that was just putrefying, disgusting smoke, and now it's wonderful incense.
And then, and it was like 3 years ago, and it actually made me mad that all of a sudden these things were good to him. It's like, what just happened?
I mean, he was perishing before, and now he's being made new.
Yeah. Especially if you want.
Okay, everyone, quick. On 3, thumbs up or thumbs down to Calvinism. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, you indecisive bastard.
I'm staying out of this.
Only Michael and I are saved.
So since I have my little object lesson here, and here I'll give you academic resources too. I've been reading this book here.
I really wanted it to be his book.
No,
I wanted it to be
I've been reading that book. Man, I'm pretty bored with that book, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So Esther Meek wrote this book, The Mother's Smile, and her whole thing of like epistemology and how do you know stuff and whatever, and it all kind of starts, with this like basic phenomenology that we're really, none of us are really conscious about, but like this guy is very particular about what works and what doesn't work. And, he's just got like the one annoying cry and then you have to figure out like what the heck is wrong. And but like, you know, but okay, so I was gonna say, oh, so maybe there's something that connects with David's thing. You know, we're not like those baby birds that like imprint on the first thing they see. We build our trust or our assessment of reality through consistency over time. And so the reason why like I can put thumbs up for Calvinism and other people will put thumbs down is because I had people in my life, you know, parents and such, who embodied that well, and that was a framework. And it's not even so. And the thing is,
are you trying to sell me on Calvinism because of personalism?
No. Here's the thing. No, what I'm saying is that the real problem is like the shittiness of people, and whatever framework you have. Like the only reason why we always have these protests isn't because there was really something wrong with the idea, but because the shitty people were the ones that somehow got in at the front of the line for like speaking for and explaining the idea. So, you know, because like, yeah, you can go to the Pentecostal church and it's like, you know, yeah, all Holy Spirit and, you know, all the feels, and that can go good or bad. Anything can go good or bad. And it's really so much built on like how consistent those you know, the starts with the parents obviously. And it's not, you know, sometimes it's like, hey, you know, yeah, if you're adopted, that's going to be a rougher path because you're going to have to wrestle with that question. But, you know, there is the fact that all of us are descended from the people that weren't like thrown away. You know, there's the babies that die, they don't pass on their genes. So there, and I think that's where that like inherent goodness actually does sort of accumulate over time. Like we are all the product of compassion to some degree or another. Because this baby will not survive if nobody cares about him, you know. Right. And so, but the problem is, you know, the consistency of what we get. You know, we all have the same map or whatever, as in like the word, what is God, what is good, what is evil. You know, we have those same words, but we always filter it through the people that taught us and how they acted in their life. And so like maybe for David with his dad, the thing is that it took 3 years of his dad seeing him act in a consistent way about his belief in God for him to realize that it's not just to overcome, you know, whatever the other examples that he had built up from his prior experience.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's totally true. I don't think anyone believes ideas for their objective truth quality, you know, because they've exegeted or read, they trust people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would, you know, who was it in the comments? Was it Lance that said Calvinism, Michael Servetus?
Sam,
he's like, I'll throw it in there. But you know, my conversation with Sam, and when he went through his whole moral therapeutic deism thing, he ended the thing by saying, I went to this Calvinist church when the Unitarian church was right across the street. And it has something to do with like what Michael's talking about with ideas. It's not only the ideas, it's kind of a nature nurture propositions and procedural stuff. Like the propositions can impact, but so do just somebody's disposition and how they interact with you into the world, and how those things come together in the soups that they mix and make. You know, why did Sam go to the Calvinist church if he believes that John Calvin was a murderer? You know, like that's complicated because it's not just about the ideas at that point. It's not just about the facts in history that he may believe, even, you know, of councils and creeds and all this kind of stuff. And so I don't think it's always like a one-to-one. Well, what works in a sense, like for him, it's like, well, I have my ideas and these are these things. And so what works or what's right or is me go to the Unitarian church. It's like, you know, so in that phase of his life and whatnot. So I just think that these things are complicated. They are more complicated than just like, here's input, here's output in a sense. Because, that will give you the kid that you want. If you have this right algorithmic parenting, formulation, this will give you the kind of kid that you hope for, or, or protect them from folly and these types of things. And so, I do think it's complicated, and that's where something like faith is present in those spaces. Not to be some ultimately nihilistic or fatalistic person related to that either. So
yeah, and I can say, it's like, even in the same way PvPK has been talking about, like the progressive or the liberal versus conservative divide as between like liberation and rigor. And it's like, personally, a lot of the liberation theology, or the more grace and all that speaks much more to me. But I would rather go to worship with the conservatives who are more conservative than me and are more into rigor than I am, who actually believe in it and live it, than go to the church with the progressive and more liberal people who don't actually embody the things that they say they believe, So like, it's the integrity between like word and deed is more important than whatever the particular ideas you are espousing.
What was it? I saw a meme yesterday, and it's Frodo going to going in the boat by himself at the end of the first Lord of the Rings video, and it says, "This is faith, on my way to Mordor by myself." And then works is Samwise Gamgee was right underneath it. It says, "I know you are, but I'm coming with you." Like, it was really good. And it really made me chuckle. But yeah, the relationship too. I also think a piece of it is related to like a deep form of like Gnostic disembodiment that's kind of like a sickness across our culture. And so I think that plays into like how we can sit in some place, or we'll say we'll sit here because we agree with the ideas, but our life doesn't agree with the ideas, and vice versa. Because we don't believe in a certain way, or we don't at least practice in a certain way that we think. And I kind of take this into like, forms of worship, but like that these things have to connect. We can just, everything out here can be a certain way, in a sense that matter doesn't matter that much. I think that's part of this. I don't know if that's the Cartesian or the who's the guy, the philosopher that gets blamed for modernity, Descartes or whatever. I think part of like those types of things maybe put in there somewhere, but I think that's part of the disconnect about how we what we think is like inside my head. Like, no, I have the rational ideas. So in a sense, because I have the rational ideas, my life will be rational, and my life and things will work out A, B, C, and D.
Can I say that this has been a very interesting experience for me as far as rhetoric goes? Because, and I don't even mean this as a joke, this is going to sound like a joke. I found everything Michael said had to be right because of how good he was being with his son. I was like, and maybe that's part of the whole idea of like what we were saying about things being compelling, and is it even logic? Like, is it working? Like, well, it's clear. Like, this guy clearly knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, I had to wait to unmute so that you would think that.
No, I think that is true. And I just would throw something in here as we start thinking about that, like where Jess is a Job guy, I'm not very smart, so I can only focus on one parable. And I have just been stuck on the parable of the prodigal son here over the past 2 or 3 years and just focus. So if we're saying that's a representation of the Father, like one of them, they were raised, like one of them went out and blew everything on sex, drugs, rock and roll, like half the lands and everything else. And he didn't argue with him, just let him go do it and was happy when he returned. And then the other one was ticked off because he was following all the rules and he didn't want to celebrate his brother coming back. So he was a good father, and his kids kind of, had kind of interesting things about them. So we just do the best we can. But I do take from that is, particularly as I have adult children, things are different. Obviously, with the stage you're at, Michael, versus a 5-year-old, 4-year-old. Like with my adult children, it's if they ask for advice, great. But otherwise, they've just got to go live their path. And you just have to have trust that God is pursuing them. And they'll, they might need to go crash and burn and hit a bottom so they find find their way maybe into a 12-step program that will lead them to a spiritual awakening.
All right. I want to start wrapping it up. I want to go at about 10 minutes or so. So if people have final comments, I think it's interesting. So Lunatox, I don't know who you are. I've never seen you before. Click the link. Come on the stream. She said, isn't it wonderful that a group of men can leave sports behind and jump right into the metaphysical, theological? And then Nathan said, at least if it was sports, it would be good for our hearts. And I think there's something to that, because I'm in a phase of life where I don't really follow any sports except like MMA and boxing, which is funny as a aspiring pacifist. But because my son is very into football now, and he's like, will you watch football with me? And I'm like, no, it seems so dumb. I will not spend my time doing that. But I think it would be pretty simple to make the case that men spending a lot of time on sports has probably been a better overall good for the world than men sitting around talking about ideas. You could probably make that argument. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that idea.
The sitting around talking ideas crowd is not the best overall. It's yeah.
I fully disagree with Luke. I think even if he was lovingly holding a baby, I would still disagree with him. I think it's that bad of a point he just
This
made.
is the downside of digital communication, because we should be able to talk about ideas to the point where we get into a boxing match.
Ooh, yeah.
It's true.
I mean, we should be able to actually physically fight when things get...
Yeah.
Well,
this is Jordan Peterson's worst take that is coming out, right?
Well, Jonathan Pageau talked about that not too long ago. You could just duel it out.
Well, he'd be changing his mind a lot then, wouldn't he? It's always people like say with Andrew Wilson, right? The people who talk about this stuff are the first person that would get eaten if the world was like that.
I don't know. He owns a lot of guns.
Maybe he's going to brag. Maybe that's why he wants to.
Ooh. No, this is like
we could talk about it. There was a certain time where you realized if you mouthed off, you could get your butt whipped at a certain. There's a good rule to learn about, like, hey, you probably should shut up right now, or you're going to get your butt whipped.
So
yeah, but this is where stubbornness comes in. You're just like, I'm not going to shut up. You're wrong.
I have
you
a question.
Sure will shut up.
I'll get my ass kicked and I'll be right.
I have a question for people, because I don't actually know the answer to this. I was about to say something certain, and I actually don't know. If me and Lance got in a fight, who would win? Because I think Lance
is very big.
Like, I've not really gotten into, I've taken a couple of punches, don't get me wrong, but I haven't really gotten into like real street fights. And just because he's in a 12-step program, I just imagine that Lance has thrown a couple more bows than me. And I'm not sure.
I'm a lover, not a fighter, David.
Yeah,
Sam,
me too. It would be a terrible fight, but who's going to win?
David, in the comments, you are not faring well.
Dang it. Just
at least Jan God says you're fun.
Yeah,
you're fun.
He's tall, man.
Yeah.
He'll just.
I know that I'm younger, but like.
Here's a perspective.
Yeah.
Here's a perspective. Most of the people that I've taken care of in the hospital that are there because they got into an altercation, and they probably don't really remember the altercation that well because that's how bad they lost the fight.
Mhm.
Are people that probably needed to lose that fight.
Okay.
That's my experience.
So what you're saying is whoever loses between me and Lance is what's needed to happen and possibly predestined before the foundation.
I don't think this even comes close to probably the reasons that these people were getting into fights. It probably they're probably way less existential, but very much more drunk or work politics or I don't know.
This is maybe my favorite comment. I don't know if it's like I think it's pretty good.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Great.
Lance is coming out good in the comments. It's a good day.
Well,
Good day to
PVK nailed it. PVK nailed it.
What did PV?
Well, Lance has basically said Lance is old, and so there wasn't. Now, here's the deal. I did not get in fist fights. I did play, just a tip, I did play Division III college football, so I was a bit psycho. And I could lose it. But I think the youth, I mean, guys, the youth of David is, that's pretty strong, but I still am psychotic. And even though one of my boys is 6'7", 26, I still think I could take him out just because if I had to, I'd go full psycho mode.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering about. Like I'm a theater kid. All right. I would beat you at stage combat, but that's fake.
Old man time's undefeated though, David. Old man time's undefeated.
Oh, okay. I gotta find a comment here. Yeah, I think what pain technology? I don't know what this means, Afriel.
Why are you highlighting it then?
Because Afriel told me to highlight it. Listen,
John,
people tell me to do things, I just do it.
John A, by the way, is Mexican, so that's not racist that he says that. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Especially if I do up a top button.
Okay.
I do want to give the chat a shout out. I mean, appreciate the retards on the way back. I appreciate the use of the word retard in the comments. Thank you. This is an open channel where we're allowed to share lots of ideas. So thank you, Luke.
Yeah. I don't.
I will let you know that I am not retarded. They checked and they could not, and it was no. That's not why I had a speech impediment. It was something unrelated, okay?
You got a negative? You took a retard test?
Yes. Yeah. Which was still the proper term in 1990.
Undiagnosed.
They checked, and I am not.
My mom said,
"Stupid is as stupid does." Or
listen, I think, I do think Jeff said in the comments that Nathan would probably win all the fights. That might be true because he's young, and I think you've done like martial arts training and stuff, and he does push-ups. He said, I'll give it to you. Michael's thick. Michael's strong. Michael has forearms.
Hezzy's going to take us all on. I agree. Hezzy, just a wiry guy. He'd be feisty.
He knows Krav Maga.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, there's a picture of me and Luke where I look way out of shape in comparison to him. So,
yeah, and PVK, we're just summoned. Sartori over there he has those carpenter forearms right now. He'd be formidable. And then if he whipped out his Randy Macho Man Savage persona, it might be game over.
Sorry, Nathan, don't you do MMA or something like that? Do you do?
Only for 10 years.
Only for 10 years.
He's the quiet one in the corner waiting for the fight break out, and he's going to wipe everybody up.
Okay, so Nathan could beat up Michael, but Michael has a baby. So who is correct between the two of them? Oh, sorry, Nathan, do you have a baby?
No, not that I know of. I think that especially if you've competed a lot, you know that people actually wanting to do violence and being at a threshold where they're willing to do it is not a situation you want to be in. Is what I would say. And I think a very good quote that a coach of mine used to say is, people never rise to the level of their expectations. They always sink to the level of your training. So if you're not trained, you not only are you going to be in a weird physiological state because of adrenaline, or you go out of breath and all these sorts of weird things start happening, but you literally don't know how to move your body in these situations. This is where people snap their own ACLs, they get themselves knocked out, they die, they crack their heads on the floor, and it's just horrible, not worth getting involved in.
Well, people that know how to fight don't, because they understand.
I have like, I didn't bring this up, but I have a black belt in karate.
Oh,
it was point fighting, and point fighting is not actual fighting. Like, I got points off when I made a real connection to a person's face.
Except who's that? There's
like,
that.
What I'm trained to do is to not hit people fully.
Yes, but there's currently like a pretty Michael Venom Page, British welterweight, who's a point fighter, who it's actually very effective because people don't know how to deal with that style.
He trained Muay Thai a lot, though. I mean, this is the thing, right? It's like there's no one who's like pure karate.
No,
it's like there are aspects of that will change your movement pattern, but if you don't know how to box and Muay Thai, you're going to struggle.
Well, we did it. We ended up with fighting, imagination, being effeminate men, talking about fighting, imaginary fighting.
I feel like I break all your rules, Luke. I
don't think you broke a rule.
Do I interrupt people?
Yeah, you don't get to come on next time.
Yeah,
you're banned.
Hot or not for Calvinism. You did a lot in this thing, Luke.
Listen, rules are there for the break-in. It's spirits.
I told Shane Claiborne I could beat him up. I told that to him.
How did he respond to that? He said, "And I would let you, brother. I would let
probably, yeah. It was something like that.
I will take your guns and I will pound them into plowshares." Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. Nathan, thanks for coming. Nathan, sometimes I feel, do you just have a resting sad face? Are you sad? Are you distracted by comments?
No, I'm probably a bit sad. Yeah, probably a bit sad.
I mean,
anyway, hey, can I make a public announcement?
Yes,
Luke. For those who, if you know, I've been hanging out in Open Studio more often, just working and water cooler stuff. So I'm gonna open that space up for people who know what that is and pop in sometime.
Nice. Okay. Apparently, Sartori's going to be streaming. Nathan.
Apparently,
we can't really have a meaningful, personal, relational conversation about why you're a little sad. I get sad sometimes too. I hope it's a generative sad. I hope it's a sadness that turns into growth and human flourishing for you. And Michael, love your baby. Any final last words? Yep. Okay, that's it. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Meow meow.
I'll jump over to your just chatting, Michael.
All right.